Have you ever sat down to play a game for what feels like 10 minutes, only to realize 5 hours have just disappeared? That was my first experience with, well, you guessed it, World of Warcraft. For me, it was 2008, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. I installed the game for the first time and booted it up at around 3 in the afternoon. I started playing it, and before I knew it, my dad was coming into my room telling me it was dinner time. I looked at the clock and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was 8 p.m. I literally felt like I had just blinked. That realization scared the hell out of me. I had heard the stories at the time. World of Warcraft was making headlines for how addictive it was, but I didn't really believe it. I thought it was completely blown out of proportion until I felt it for myself. I don't know what it is about this game, man, but those first moments in Elwyn Forest as I made my very first character, a human paladin, spoke to me. It was a mixture of the very simple graphics, each class having its own flavor with unique cool looking spells, and the ambiance, including the music. Oh man, the music. It didn't take long before this game swallowed me whole. From that point on, World of Warcraft was all I played. This was also the first time in my life I didn't get straight A's in school. And really, how could I? I wasn't studying, I was too busy racing home to log in, too busy leveling my characters to care about homework. Little did I know this was only the beginning of my downward spiral. I was 14 at the time, just a kid. I wasn't about to go ask my dad to pay for a subscription to an online video game. That would have been crazy. So I did the next best thing. I turned to private servers. They were my workaround, my way to stay in Azeroth without paying a dime. And honestly, I didn't know any better. I had never played retail before, so I had no idea what it was like for quests and spells to work properly. In a way, that ignorance was a blessing. I started off in the Burning Crusade, the expansion that was current at the time. Wrath of the Lich King was still very fresh, and so the private servers running it were buggy nightmares, so I didn't even bother. That would come a year or two later. For now, I was living in the calm before the storm that was the Burning Crusade, and it was really calm. No Death Knights, no Red Paladins, no Arcane Mages, no over-the-top mechanics, just simple PvP. Most players were terrible at the game, me included, but that was part of the charm. Everyone was just scrambling around, ninja looting warglaves off of Illidan like goblins fighting over treasure. It was chaotic, it was broken, but man, those were fun times. My addiction didn't get any better. In fact, high school was where it peaked. I can laugh about it now, but back then it was torment. This was the era when I first dove into Wrath of the Lich King, and it quickly became the expansion I spent the most time in. It wasn't just the game that had me hooked, it was the people as well. I found this tight-knit community on a private server called World of Immortality. Everyone knew each other, and for the first time I felt like I belonged somewhere. See, at school I was a nobody. I was ignored, scoffed at, even made fun of. But on that server, I had a name. I had a reputation as a good player in both PvE and PvP. People respected me, they liked me, they whispered me as soon as I logged on. And honestly, I preferred that version of myself to the one who sat alone during recess. But of course that came at a cost. I barely slept. I wanted to squeeze every possible hour into the game. My routine was brutal. Rush home from school, log in, grind until 4 or 5 in the morning, crash in bed, wake up half dead, drag myself to class only to fail my math exam, fall asleep during English, and then repeat it all again the next day. Sounds like a pretty messed up way to live, huh? Imagine how I felt. I had come from the high of middle school where I couldn't fail a subject even if I tried. I was naturally good at everything, and suddenly I was in a place where people were rewarded for hard work and for studying. And here I was, I couldn't cut it. I felt completely misplaced, like a fish out of water. All because of a video game. Or so I thought. Looking back at it now as I make this video, I realize something important. World of Warcraft was never to blame. And honestly, the things we escape into, whether it's games, shows, or anything else, aren't really to blame either. The truth is, we need to hold ourselves accountable. We need to accept that we're the ones responsible for our choices. The faster we realize that, the better our lives will be. I'm not ashamed to admit I was weak. Sure, I had poor guidance at home. My parents didn't pay much attention to how down I was feeling at the time. But instead of facing my fears and my problems head on, I chose to numb them with a video game. And that's on me. And here's the thing. Most people don't just do it with games. That's what Netflix is for, or Instagram Reels, or smoking, or drinking. You're probably thinking of your own escape right now. We're all wired the same, you and I. Hard situations are uncomfortable. They're uncharted territory, uncertain, and terrifying. And that triggers fight or flight. I still feel that even today. I make these videos, I share advice, but I'm not perfect. I try to live by the same lessons I talk about, but even I stumble, even I fail. The difference is, no matter how many times I fall, I try to get back up again. And that, honestly, is one of the biggest lessons World of Warcraft taught me. You're probably thinking, wow, this video's only halfway through and he's already hit us with that gut punch. Well, believe it or not, I've still got more to share, including a pretty funny story. After high school was done, without repeating a year, I might add, somehow I managed to scrape by with pretty mediocre grades, but at the time I thought, hell, I'll take it. What do you think I did next? A, go to college. B, get a job. C, invest in Bitcoin. Or D, absolutely nothing for 2 years and just played World of Warcraft. If you said C, congratulations, you're absolutely wrong. I wish I'd done that. Yeah, I spent 2 years doing absolutely squat. I lived off my parents and played World of Warcraft, still mostly in that same tight-knit community I mentioned before. But by then, the server numbers were dwindling. Most people were moving on, getting jobs, having kids, and here I was, stuck in this fantasy world, no pun intended. I didn't want to face the fact that this was meant to end someday. And don't we all do that sometimes? We choose to see what we want to see. At the time, I didn't want to face the reality to see things the way they truly were. The server was dying. People were moving on. New players weren't sticking around because they didn't share the same history we did. The staff was small, the server buggy. We couldn't compete with the big boys anymore. Now that I'm telling this story, it sounds incredibly sad, and I guess it kind of is, in a way. Despite being 19 at the time, I still felt like a kid. I wasn't used to dealing with that kind of reality, and it was hard. But hey, don't pity me. At the time, I was also a little prick. Angry, volatile, raging at my computer screen whenever I lost an arena match. Screaming in my partner's ear. I broke desks, I broke monitors, I broke keyboards. Which brings me to another thing this game taught me. But for that, I have to tell a funny little story. I used to play on a Romanian private server with a small but tight-knit PvP scene. The top team was a Resto Shaman and Prot Paladin. This was back in Wrath, mind you. I can't remember their names, but their comp completely countered ours. Before long, we were constantly competing for the top spot in the 2v2 arena bracket. They knew us well and we did them, but they pretty much won 99% of the time. Every time they beat us, I saw a mail icon pop up next to my minimap. I rushed to the mailbox, and these freaking guys, every time they won a game, sent me a banana? They mailed me a banana in-game every single time they beat us. Rage baiting might not have been a thing yet back then, but these guys were already professionals at it. And me being a volatile, immature kid, of course I lost my mind every time I saw that mail icon pop up. This was until my arena partner, a super chill dude from the US I was fortunate enough to meet at the time called Ruination, said something that stuck with me for the rest of my life. He said, "You have nothing to prove to them." Every time I lost in a game, I thought of myself as inferior. that they were better than me, that they were laughing at me, and that one simple sentence changed everything. I don't owe these people anything. We don't owe these people anything. If they beat me, they beat me. Someone always has to lose, and it's okay if it's me sometimes. If they want to talk smack afterwards, who cares? I don't owe them anything at all. I have nothing to prove to them. It's such a mind-boggling, simple concept that I can't believe it took me so long to grasp. I was playing to have fun with my friend, and that was a notion I had long forgotten, until that one moment. Moving on, in a completely uncharacteristic move for me, I decided that playing WoW could not possibly be the rest of my life. I had to put this game down sooner or later, so I packed up my things, applied for college, and moved out of my parents' place for the next 5 years of my life. Come on, do you honestly think that's what happened? Well, yeah, surprisingly, yes. Yes, it was. Now, don't get me wrong, I still played WoW, especially in those first years. But the balance began to shift. As I got out more, partied, met new people, and actually started living a little, I had progressively less time to spend indoors. Slowly but surely, I began prioritizing different things. For the first time, I realized that there were parts of life worth exploring beyond Kalimdor, Eastern Kingdoms, and Northrend. I even tried different games. Around that time, I picked up Dark Souls for the first time, and it blew my mind. This was also around the time World of Immortality, my old private server, Home, finally shut down for good. And here's the part you might laugh at, but when that server died, I felt like a part of me died with it. That community had been my world for so many years. It shaped me, gave me friends, memories, and even an identity. And suddenly, just like that, it was gone. The rest is kind of uneventful and anticlimactic. I finished college, yes, got a job, and I've been trying to make a life for myself ever since. You may be asking yourself, did you ever stop playing the game? The answer is yes and no. World of Warcraft to me is kind of like that one annoying guilty pleasure song on the radio. You roll your eyes when it comes on, swear you're sick of it, but 5 minutes later you're humming along, and by the end you're singing it out like you're on tour. I play it for a while, stop for a year or two, then see something that reminds me of it, and suddenly I'm back. The prospect of creating a new character from scratch and reliving that nostalgic feeling is just too much for my little heart to refuse. These days, I still play on private servers, but now I'm a classic WoW enjoyer. My heart is done with all the fast-paced gameplay. I like to take my sweet time. I like to savor the experience and go slow. I like grouping up with people and helping them take out a dungeon together. And I feel like this is probably one of the biggest lessons this game blessed me with. Our brains are capable of incredible feats, but they're constantly running at 300 miles an hour, juggling 500 thoughts at the same time. It's okay to pause once in a while and really take in where you are and what you're doing at the moment. It's okay to just savor the experience. Life goes by fast. Things end, and time waits for no one. But here's the thing. Just because everything ends, doesn't mean it wasn't worth it. That time in Azeroth wasn't wasted. It shaped the young me. It taught me about obsession, escape, failure, and resilience. And most of all, it taught me that joy doesn't always come from racing to the finish line. Sometimes it's in the slowing down and enjoying the journey, both in game and in life. Because, truth be told, at the end of the day, you can farm all you want, but the best loot life can give us is the present moment. Before I go, I just want to say a huge thank you. We've officially hit 3,000 subscribers, something I honestly never thought I'd see when I first started this channel. What began as just me sharing a few thoughts and stories has turned into this amazing little community, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. If you'd like to support me in what I do, you can do so through my Ko-Fi, linked in the description. I'm also thinking about setting up a small subscription with some fun perks, so if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and thank you for being a part of this journey with me.